to a real family that went through it, and we'd be happy to share our experience with them, because any little bit that we can do to help maybe reassure people that it is possible. And it works even for people that don't believe it.
Yeah. Losing hope is the biggest
Yes.
the biggest thing. There's one study that showed, I don't know what it was something like 60% of people give up before they access the treatment, just the minimal treatment that
Well, I mean, I almost did too this third time. I remember I was supposed to start taking the birth control pill, and I didn't, and I called Shayna the next day, because then I changed my mind. I was like, is it too late? And she's like, yeah, because you need at least this many days. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, well, next month.
Okay, well, my wife and I had, since we've been married, I've always known that I've had male factor infertility. So when we decided that after we were married, that we were going to have children, we set about looking for some place that could help us, knowing going into it that we had issues. So in doing checks, my wife ended up finding another location, and we went through 2.5 cycles worth. And it was horrible. It was painful on my wife. It was very emotionally trying. It was challenging for us on every level, including our marriage. So after that happened, we decided that we were going to give it one more shot, but we weren't going to go back. And so my wife, in her wisdom, started looking around and trying to find places to go. And after interviewing at several, we came across your office.
Yeah, we had a few friends that referred us here.
So when we first came in, for us, the experience was altogether different than what we had already gone through at the other place. Everything that seemed to be painful, including additional shots and other medications, procedures that we went through at the other place, for whatever reason, we were reassured, and we never had to really go through them. So after my wife was comfortable, I was hesitant, but I trusted my wife and decided to give it one last shot here. And
I just immediately had a good feeling when I came here that it was going to be different and, for the better.
And to her credit, it was her, because I was, no way, I don't want to do this anymore. It was already too much for me. It was too trying on us. And then, I think, what was it, almost 10 or 11 months later, because through all the little things at the beginning, here we are with, 5 months after they're born, here we are with our 2 little angels.
Well, the nurse, Shayna, was just immediately she called me right away to check up on, what we were doing with his procedures, and asked if we needed help scheduling anything and getting us in sooner with the other doctor, with the urologist. And she was just so comforting and motherly, and it just right away I just felt comfortable with her, and she just made the experience awesome. And whenever I had issues, I would call her. She was so helpful, and she made everything so much better. So that was the main thing for me that really just from the beginning gave me a much better experience.
And to piggyback on that, one memory that really stood out to me was, and I'm guessing that most people go through this, where you harvest X amount of eggs, but then by the time a couple days go before they're implanted, that goes down to, you lose a few, and then you fertilize the eggs, then before implantation that drops a few. So in our previous experience, when this occurred, we would come in and there would be maybe 1 egg, or there would be, I think one time, just 2 or 3. They weren't great. So the day that we were coming in for our actual implantation, unbeknownst to me, my wife was at her wit's end, and she didn't know if any of the eggs had actually survived to implantation. So when we came in, very hesitantly, she asked, and when Shayna comforted Jacqueline and just hugged her and let her know that everything had gone great and that we were ready to roll, there was no issues. It was a huge burden off of my shoulders, and I could just tell that my wife immediately relaxed once she knew that everything had gone great.
And I think another big thing was when I met with you the first time, a couple other doctors that we talked to, I feel like we're just when we went for second opinions, they were just gonna dive into IVF again, not necessarily trying to figure out what they could change or look into, or see what, what issues he had that weren't looked at. But, like you really like looked into it and looked at his records and were like, well, we don't know why they did this procedure. We could do it differently and that might help. And I feel like that's what also made me feel better the very first time I met with you, was that there was something else that we could do to make it better and not just repeat the same process that was unsuccessful. So that was a big thing. Well, I mean, I have a friend that is going through a lot of issues with infertility, and she sees a different doctor, but you just kind of have to, as hard as it is, keep trying and just kind of, I feel like the second opinion with you was the best thing that we did, because if we just stuck with, what we were doing, I don't know if it would have worked. And it's very, very difficult, but I feel like, in the end, it's all worth it. Everything that you go through, and going to a place like this just made it so much better and easier for us to go through a difficult process, but to have like great support of everybody here.
Along the same lines, before I started this, I would have thought that because it is science and there's not necessarily a checklist everybody follows, but the basic fundamental science behind IVF, you would think would be identical across all providers, that, especially within a specific geographic area, I would have assumed, but it's not true. I mean, it's 100% not true. When we came here, the way that our treatments were done were not 100% different, but I would say at least 50% different. And just the theory that we were given was just different. I would have never thought that. I would have thought if I go to 2 foot doctors, they're going to give me the same treatment, but it's not the same with fertility doctors. There's the comfort, the explanations, the trust that we received. You really have to decide. If you have any second thoughts, then you're probably in the wrong place. Because we didn't follow our gut, and we should have, but eventually we did, and we got here. Just if anybody is starting to lose any hope at all, just know that I was in their place and I had already given up. I leaned on my wife, who pushed me, and I won't say that she grabbed my hand gently and walked me forward. She pushed and dragged me forward, because I was done. I was through with it, the whole thing. I was just completely done with this. I thought this was never going to happen. Why am I wasting money on this? This is ridiculous. I'm fiscally conservative. I'm not going to do any of this nonsense anymore. But through faith in my wife, we decided to give it one last shot, and proof's in the pudding. I have 2 wonderfully difficult angels.